Hey, welcome to this mini lecture on competitive advantage. My name is Dino. Welcome to class. Um, there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about. These are some false idols, the four false idols of competitive advantage within media. They are deep pockets, cash on hand, great brands. They are recognized commodities across not only country but also the world. Extraordinary talent, such as people like Gaga and Mark Zuckerberg, can necessarily give you that competitive advantage, and first mover advantage. The first to market with a new product is they get that advantage. We want to learn from these idols and forget them, like keep them in the back of your mind, but account for them. In terms of organizational strategy, um, that when you're thinking about competitive advantage, you want to establish and reinforce barriers to entry for potential existing competitors. If you are, say, a person who's established in a market, and then from that idea, these barriers to entry are a competitive advantage for you as that organization. There are various types of competitive advantage. Here are two. Sole advantage. That's when there are no existing competitors, so you're just by yourself. So that gives you competitive advantage because you're not competing against anyone. And then there's number two, shared advantage. That's when there's existing competitors, so that's among them. If shared, then there are two options within that. You can either cooperate with the competitors or you can compete with the competitors. And depending on what your situation is, you may want to do one or the other. I'll get into this more specifically. Categories of competitive advantage, the four categories: economies of scale, customer capacity, and costs, and government protection. I'll go through them in that order. Economies of scale. This applies to most internet-based media businesses, such as Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. When you think about economies of scale, to make it more specifically on the internet, they have these things called networks effects. Basically, the number of customers increases the value of the service provided. All of these platforms, Facebook, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn, would be much less powerful if there are fewer people, fewer customers on them. They derive a lot of their power from just the sheer number of people on them. Two, customer captivity, and that is equal to the habit plus switching costs plus search costs. For example, pretend that you are invested in X or Twitter, and you have considered switching to Meta's Threads. This is how cost of customer captivity impacts you. You have a habit, which you have established. You have to learn the new systems and get into those habits. There's a switching cost. All your X and Twitter fans might not be using Threads, so that's a switching cost. And finally, the search costs. You have to spend time rebuilding your network. So, say if on X you have 500 followers or subscribers, you may not necessarily have that when you start it on Threads. So those are definitely a costs. Here's some more on costs. Proprietary technology plus learning plus special resources. First, proprietary knowledge. X or Twitter has its own API. This helps to ease the interface with other services. For example, you can tweet from within LinkedIn if you know how to do that. It's not particularly hard. In terms of learning, Facebook is trying out new features. They constantly innovate to try to make their service good, so they learn from their past mistakes. For those of you who are older, you might remember MySpace and Friendster. They did not leverage the learning they had over time, and as a result, they gave way to a service like Facebook, which learned from MySpace and Friendster. Finally, special resources, having the right talent to get that job done. When you watch The Social Network, you'll see, if you look at the coders, they are there was a hackathon, and Mark Zuckerberg was looking for high quality coders, and when you have this special resources, this talent, it helps your company. Content creation, distribution. Media companies are involved in either and or content creation and or content distribution. For as an example, on Facebook and YouTube, users create the content and users distribute it, and so do the media companies themselves. Such as you have, say, on Facebook and YouTube, users create the content on those platforms, and they also share it among their friends and peers and subscribers and followers. But also, that's easy to understand. When you have, let's say, content on YouTube, this content is also hosted on various YouTube channels. So YouTube has a part of that. The media company also helps to foster your service. In terms of content types, there are two main types of content produced by media companies: continuous and discrete. Continuous, it kind of comes constantly, like Facebook, X, and Twitter. Whenever you look at your news feed on Twitter, for example, or your X/Twitter feed, it's always constantly updating, even if you're not trying. Versus you think of something like a discrete service like Hulu or YouTube, where they have a fixed catalog of content, video in this case, that increases over time, but it's like discrete videos that are added over time, and other ones are deleted. So there's a sort of a, I hope you get the difference, but ultimately there's a bit of an overlap, because there is actually content added which is discrete, but it's almost like the volume on X and Twitter is so much faster than Hulu and YouTube that it seems continuous, but it's in fact discrete individual things that are added over time. But it comes so quickly, it seems continuous. Distribution types. There are two main types of distribution used by media companies: local, such as New York One in New York, or global, such as CNN, which is seen around the world. That was Competitive Advantage. My name is Dino. Please feel free to comment on the video. Please feel free to like it. And please feel free to subscribe to this channel if you'd like to learn more of this type of information. Take care.